Welcome to our show. Good morning, Rarchar.
Good morning, Mick. How you doing today?
Great, great. Welcome to Let the People Decide with MicMeow and Rarchar Tortorello. So we're going to be doing a lot of focus, as you know, on those things that are going to impact the hearts, minds, and souls of the citizens nationally. Locally, we're going to do some information, education, activation. Ooh, those are all in Asian.
Yeah, action.
I don't know.
I like
I
that.
don't want
Action
I don't want
words.
action.
I love the action words.
I do too. I love that we have our sponsors, the City Sentinel at city-sentinel.com, Patriot Sentinel at patriotsentinel.com, and we're encouraging everybody on Facebook, Rumble to go in, like, share, comment, interact with us. You can pull us up while we're here, comment with us. So today we're going to be speaking with Cam Ulloa. He has worked as a veteran advocate, and this is a mouthful, so ready, the state director for Oklahoma VA Claims and Benefits Division. I don't know if I can say that fast for more than one time.
You just did.
Right?
Say it again.
I like it.
I want to hear that.
Right?
Yeah.
Should I do it again?
One more time.
Okay, all right. He is the veteran advocate as a state director for Oklahoma VA Benefits and Claims Division. Oh, man, I need coffee after that. Okay, so he has expertise in appeals and the military sexual trauma aspect of that. And so we're going to be talking about the Pact Act.
I'm looking forward to it. This is a new act the VA enacted a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And what it does, it extends the presumption of injury and disability to include a lot more disabilities and injuries. And this has opened the pathway. Now, most of you guys don't know what I do. So I appeal disability claims to the VA. It's my full-time job. And the Pact Act has allowed clients who were previously denied to have their claims reopened and re-adjudicated according to the Pact Act. So this is a great new legislative piece of legislation that really is like 20 years in the making.
Wow.
It should have been here 20 years ago. You know, it's a sad thing when you're talking to veteran clients and they had their disability claims denied the first time. But when you're having that conversation and call them back up and say, look, we can get you qualified. We can get the process opened up again, get you disability. And so, you know, that's a good thing here.
Now, I think so too. 5 million. I'm gonna jump in here. 5 million veterans, men and women across the United States are veterans. These people have really sacrificed their lives in service for our freedoms and liberties. So, first of all, you're military, right?
I'm retired. I'm retired Air Force.
Thank
20
you for
years.
Your
You're welcome. And we want to thank the services of all the veterans who are watching and all the veterans who will be watching and the friends and family members of veterans.
Oh, yeah.
We thank you for your service because most people don't understand that spending 20 years is a long time. We have sacrificed. I have sacrificed family time. My first daughter, my oldest daughter, she grew up half her life without me because I spent all that time deployed to the Middle East. And so these are to all the families out there, veterans who are watching this show. We thank you for your service because this country would not be who we are today if it wasn't for the sacrifices of those going back to World War II, Vietnam, Korea, the Gulf War, all those wartime situations that put our veterans in peril and risk.
Yeah.
And I would say that everybody is 100%. If I can get everybody 100% path to go forward, would all be 100% in my book.
Oh, yeah.
That's how strongly I feel about this.
Well, I feel pretty strongly. My husband, my father-in-law, even my father were veterans. So here's the one thing that I've noticed. First of all, thank you to all the veterans and the family members, because really, I mean, I remember 5 years we lived in Alaska. And I used to put hearts every time that Jim was home. And this was during the Gulf War. And I would put hearts on the calendar every time he was home. And out of 5 years, he was home 2 out of the 5 years.
It's a sacrifice.
But it is. And let me just say this. So on the Pact Act, They are looking at those range of chemical exposures, environmental exposures, anything that has led them to an increased risk in their health, cancer, pulmonary injuries, anything, symptoms may be hidden for years before they manifest. So
Right.
August of 2022 is when the promise to address the comprehensive toxics acts, better known as the Pact Act, became law. So what that came from people being exposed to burn pits.
Big issue during that time, that period. Could not get them service connected because it was not a service connectable disability at the time. And so
Mm,
this PACT Act is over to thousands, fucking thousands of people who were previously denied burn pits, toxic exposure, a pathway forward, getting that service connection.
I think it's even going back to, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it going back to those from the Vietnam era where they were exposed to
All
Agent
the way
Orange?
back to Vietnam. They've added Thailand onto that list. Don't forget,
Oh,
people
wow.
being stationed in Vietnam just weren't in Vietnam. They were on the ground in Laos, Thailand, and some of those guys were diverted to Korea at the time too. Well, so this opens up a lot of the presumptive folks that were um, exposed to Agent Orange, but weren't in Vietnam. And we often say that the VA doesn't do good for the veterans, but
Mm,
my time and working with the VA hand in hand, they do a tremendous job in trying to get and helping people like myself and our guest Cam get
yeah.
service connected for our clients.
Yeah.
All right, so opening up Thailand, I know I have a lot of clients that were stationed, went to Vietnam,
Yeah.
but were transported to Thailand,
Yeah.
but were never compensated for their. So
Mm.
this opens up that doorway for them.
And they need to have that. So, one of the things that I do want to point out is that, and this is my understanding, is that there is a goal that the benefits would cover an estimated 300,000, I'm sorry, 300 billion, not
Mm.
300,000, 300 billion over the next 10 years.
That is the goal, yes.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. There is, if you're a veteran, if you're a family member, there is a really nice fact guide sheet out there. Now, this is going to be a little bit long, but we'll put it on the website when we post
We will,
this.
yes, we will put that there. And whatever links we have. So our guest used to work for the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things going on. So the veterans who are 100% service connected today, you have until July 1st to get your sales tax exemption paperwork updated to
Mm.
keep that sales tax exemption. All these links and the link for the Pact Act guide, which many of you probably know about, should post today. We'll post
I
today on this
I think
podcast.
we should, because when I was working in nursing, that was, I think, one of the biggest populations that it was very tricky to maneuver in. Was veterans. And so lots of people need information. So I'm glad we have some experts today, Rarchar and Cam Ulloa, who is here, who is going to be talking to us about the Pact Act. All right. And Cam pops up.
Here
Hi,
he is.
Cam.
Hello, guys.
Good
Hello.
to see you.
Hello, ma'am.
Good morning. Hey, it's been a
Morning.
long time since we saw each other. Like maybe 2 weeks ago in Tulsa, right?
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yes.
Met great people.
That was a wonderful convention. But this is an important topic, the Pact Act. So I didn't know a whole lot about the Pact Act, I'll be honest, but I'm glad that we're talking about it because the impact that it has on the veterans, I think, is going to be phenomenal. But you brought up the term the presumptive conditions. So those conditions that I guess are presumed because you were in the military during the Iraq War or Afghanistan, that your issues are service related. You don't have to prove it. It just is based on the time.
And the location.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to be on the ground in a certain time period to have that presumption apply to you. So a lot of veterans understand how that works. The what they don't understand was, why weren't connected like the folks going back to Thailand for the war. So like I said, the Pact Act extends lots of territories, the time frames. Even those veterans during the Vietnam War who were stationed in Korea during the same time gave them a couple of years. I have one client, actually five, who were stationed in Korea during the Vietnam War. But that time period for service connection for Agent Orange exposure was a short time period. So the Pact Act extends that time period, which now includes them. So all these cases being reopened, and so my goal, Cam's goal, everybody who's our space is to get these guys service connected quickly as possible. Now, the folks at the VA have the best system in Oklahoma because I say that Oklahomans work at the Muskogee Regional Office. They work downtown at the VA clinic, at the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs, and Oklahomans just have this need to make sure that everyone's taken care of, which is why we have the best state of Oklahoma out of the two federal offices and the one state office, the number one in the state, number one in the nation.
Is that right? So so let me back up here a second because there's a lot of us who may be service spouses. We may not know. First of all, I want to ask you about, you mentioned off a lot of different offices. Is that where people go to get signed up for the Pact Act? How do people get connected? Where does that happen for them?
So what Cam does, he works for the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs.
I used to.
You used to. Okay.
Yeah.
You used to, and you were a field officer or field agent. What was your duty title?
Everything. So I was a director at one point,
Yeah.
and I was the one talking about policy, how to provide the new insight that's coming in,
Okay.
and how the state of Oklahoma can improve.
Okay.
So that was my main goal. Before that, I was a service officer, and I did house visits. I did ICU visits. I've been everywhere, trying to help those veterans to get service connected or have some kind of benefit.
So it probably would be beneficial to have you like went to the hospital, you actually visited the veterans in the VA or whatever. Is that the best way to get people connected?
Well,
Let's say they were in
everyone
America.
knows who to talk to somebody. So we have a lot of service agencies out there, the VFW, the American Legion. We have a lot of nonprofits out there down in Norman that do this all the time. We have
Okay.
people like Cam and people like myself that we do this all the time. So if you are looking for someone to help,
Yeah.
we can put the link on the podcast to go to the VA, and you can go and find an attorney or an agent or an organization by typing in your location, and it brings up a list of people you can actually call. But for the most part, I think everybody in Oklahoma knows that Norman in Oklahoma City. So Norman is ground zero. We have a lot of agencies down in Norman that deal with veteran issues. We have the ODVA. When I retired from Tinker back in 2007, Cam, we had an ODVA rep who was there to walk a lot of
What's
folks through
ODVA?
Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs.
Okay, great.
Which is the state veteran affairs agency.
Okay.
So may I add something?
Please do.
A lot of people will say, what's the difference between the state and the federal?
Yeah.
So if you go, for example, to the federal office and you go through a claim, appeal, and you go for a hearing, the federal government or the federal VA is not going to represent you because it's not, the federal is federal, so it has to be someone else. A lot of times the state will take over that hearing because that individual is a resident of Oklahoma.
Okay.
So a lot of those times the state of Oklahoma will come in and help that veteran.
So it sounds to me like, and I'm just looking at it from a nursing point of view, they would come into clinical trials, they would be sitting there, and maybe the Pact Act has made a difference where I would have veterans come in and they would be like trying to get their disability, trying to get claims done, and they felt like maybe there was a real need to maneuver the system. So how is the best way that you would recommend? Go to the VA, go to
It depends.
contact someone like you, an
You know,
advocate?
Mick, that's a very good question, and I think it depends on the situation. For example, you being a nurse, you know me.
Yeah,
You would say, "Hey, contact Rarchar. Here's his phone number."
yeah.
So, you know, I know a lot of folks. Like I have a relationship with psychiatrists and orthopedic surgeons because of back and skeletal issues, and so they know who to send potential clients to when they're having that conversation. So, I think in the ecosystem of VA-ism, we want to call it that, everyone knows someone you can send someone to. Now, ODVA, the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs, they're everywhere. You know, you're at Tinker
Okay.
Air Force Base, you're at the military bases, you're at, I see you all the time.
Central office,
Everywhere.
There's outreach people,
Yes.
Muskogee. It really depends on the need.
Yeah.
For example, there's presumptive events,
Yeah.
and those are really special because the individual, the veteran, will come into that event, and they could get service connected that day, as long as they bring the correct paperwork.
Okay, so they need court paperwork.
So it's the evidence. So everything that we do, it depends on the evidence. We can walk in. I would love to walk into the VA hospital. I can tell every client, hey, go to the VA hospital downtown Oklahoma City or ODV office or the Muskogee. Bring all your records, and they'll help you out. But when it comes to the real part of adjudicating these claims here, even though you may be exposed to Agent Orange, like my clients who were in Vietnam but were transported to Korea, exposed to Agent Orange as they're working on the DMZ at the time, you know, we have to follow the law, and the law says you have it has to be within the confines of legislative action, date, in place, and time. Okay.
Gotcha.
And so you can bring your records, you can be service connected for PTSD, or not service connected for PTSD, but have PTSD given to you by the VA hospital, okay, or your provider. But that does not necessarily it doesn't say that you'll be service connected for it. So I like the fact that if you bring all your records, your
Yeah.
medical records, and they have access to all your VA files anyways, if you go to like myself or ODVA or even to Muskogee, and if they can service connect you there and have that process started, that is something the VA should have done years ago. But however, you know, I always will say the VA, the federal, the state, all these agencies, the VFW, the American Legions, they do a tremendous job at getting people the service connection that they want. However, you have to provide the medical evidence and the evidence that says you were in country at the time in order for that process to begin. I've had to turn people away in the past because they were in service, but in country, but they were not included on any of the legislative presumption locations here. So the Pact Act, again, tremendous piece of legislative work, extends locations, dates, and times to include everybody that we know, our parents, our grandparents who were there, to say, now you can go ahead and reapply for your claim. So everyone knows somebody. Okay, so we will post all these resources of who you can contact. I think the most important thing is the VA link that they can go to, and they can type in Enid, Oklahoma, and it brings up a list of attorneys, agents, and service organizations, and you just pick the one and call them, and you have that conversation with them.
Go ahead, please.
So one of my recommendations whenever you're restarting or starting your VA claim, you know, to obtain benefits of some kind, compensation, pension, whatever the case is. Make sure the individual you're talking to is federally accredited. Because a lot of times that individual that you're talking across doesn't understand the law or the process.
So what Cam is talking about is that anybody who does any type of claims needs to have that VA, the federal VA accreditation. Okay, and so for most of us, we have to do our CLE hours every year.
What's a CLE?
Continuing legal education.
Okay.
Supply that to the VA to make sure. So we have there are seminars like every month, okay,
Okay.
on new laws, new updates. It's out there. And in order for people like myself to maintain my accreditation, we have to put those CLE hours every year.
Okay.
I do one. I tell you what, we're so busy sometimes that I do one like every month because laws change, they update so fast, and it's also a good way to communicate with our peers across the nation. Okay, so that's what we do. I would always ask for an accreditation. If you go to the VA site on the link that we're going to post this morning, everyone there is already accredited.
Gotcha. I do want to ask this because we're getting ready to run out of time here in just a couple minutes, and I do want to ask this. There was an indication or a statement about this toxic exposure screening. And on the website, as I was going through researching the Pact Act, it looked like that it was offered on a volunteer basis. And however, it would help, but it was not something that was required in order to make a claim. So what is that?
Would you let me
Go ahead and do that one.
So I
Please.
will say in the non-accredited individual that has friends calling going, hey, what's going on? Each individual should take their opportunity to better themselves however they see fit, right? So if a veteran is at 100% permanent total and there's going to be an opportunity where they may get something service connected that if they pass away,
Yeah.
that spouse or the widow is able to use for her benefits in the future, yes, of course, do it.
Yeah.
Now, if you provide the exam, that exam is going to be loaded up into the BBA.
What's the VP?
It's the Veterans Benefits Administration,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Sorry, I
So
just
the
have to
health-
clarify, you
So
know.
the health to benefit, so that people will go in there, and it may or may not trigger for the VA to look on something that it may be exposed to that individual. So it may be able to open that record. Now, if an individual has not a service connection or potentially get a service connection,
Yeah.
of course, go for it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But that's the concern from
Yeah.
a lot of peers of mine that are going, hey, Cam, is this a good idea or a bad idea? I'm like, it's up to you. It's
Right.
really up to you.
So it really sounds like, and I'm going to take it from the perspective of someone who's a spouse of a veteran, but someone maybe who's not, steeped in the ways of veteran benefits. It sounds like the best thing to do, if I was concerned, my husband was in the Gulf War, that kind of stuff, I would say, first of all, go to the VA website and put in that information, get records, and connect with an advocate. Is that fair?
That is very fair and accurate. You know what? I'm very amazed at today's veteran. You know, there's so much information out there, and they do the best research on their own.
Oh, yeah.
But they just
Yeah.
need someone to say, help me guide the way, because look,
That's it.
they say that the VA system is not adversarial, but we both know that it is adversarial. But it's look,
Well, you've got the tricks of
anytime-
the trade.
well, the trick, that's a good thing, but going to court's the same way too. You have to have, it's not adversarial, but you can't walk into court and say, you know what, I'm going to demand this because I want this. The judges want to see the proof, and so the VA wants to see the proof.
Process.
Now it is on the veteran to provide the evidence. Okay,
Gotcha.
and so what most people do, like Cam and myself, we provide the evidence. We help gather the evidence.
Okay.
We
Pack it.
we turn everything in
Good.
together, and that way, we have 100%. I have almost 100%, 99% success rate at getting everyone service connected. There's those few that there's no path for them, and that's the hardest conversation to have. So I am not, and you're not the same. We're not in the same boat where we say, yeah, I'm gonna get you 100%.
No, that's the worst thing you can say.
Anyone
I-
who does that, I really loathe people without an accreditation to begin with, or those that have the accreditation will always start the conversation with what I can get you 100%.
Ugh.
And I always say, that is the worst thing you can say to a veteran, because if you don't make it to 100%, then they look at the system as failing them.
Well,
And
it's
you
a-
never want to make those kind of promises.
that's
you
a-
know.
It's a betrayal of trust
It is.
between
Yes.
the VA and the veteran, because they'll never trust to go back and help with
Because
that.
yeah, exactly every case and situation is different, and so you may be service connected for 100%, okay, but and you think, hey, I can do it to somebody else, I can help someone else with the process here, but in reality, unless you look at the person's VA file and ask the right questions, you don't know if that person's
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah. And how would you know? You know, this is a fascinating conversation. Unfortunately, we are like out of time. I mean, that went quick, fast, and in a hurry. We've got a couple minutes here. Cam, do you want to give us any insight, information, last word? Tell us about the
Wisdom.
Pact Act. Wisdom.
Okay.
Yes, please. Pearls
Uh,
of wisdom. We like that.
Right now, I will recommend, if there's anything that an individual has filed
Uh-huh.
and they're still in the, let's call it in the discovery time
Yeah.
period, where
Okay.
the VA hasn't contacted the veteran
Right.
or hasn't done anything, a lot of times the veteran will say, "Whoa, did I do something wrong?" No, they are so backlogged
Mm.
that it's taking the process a lot longer than usual. At one point, when I was working, it was taking 7 days from beginning to end.
Wow.
But now, because of this new legislation that came in and it came into policy, hey, you know what? It's just taking a little bit of time. Now, for the state side, when you're talking about the tax benefits and everything, yes, make sure you put in your paperwork. Call the Muskogee office or call the VA phone number. I hope it's in the website.
Yeah. well,
Make sure you put that in there.
yeah.
And
A good advocate, it's part of the process once you get the 100% or any 50% or even higher, but you give them, you call. Here's the number you call. If you're 50% or higher, this is
Yeah.
what you call and ask them for your state benefits. So they'll ask questions, they'll get
Yeah.
your social, and they'll verify, and they'll send you everything that you're entitled to. But the state of Oklahoma, like the state of Texas, is the best place for veterans because we have the best.
friendly.
Well, we have the best veteran package.
Mm.
Not only do you have the sales tax exemption, you have the excise tax and property tax exemptions here in the state of Oklahoma. And for a 100% rated veteran, property tax exemption can save you thousands of dollars
Oh,
in mortgage payments.
yeah.
Sales
yeah.
tax exemptions up to $25,000 every year,
Wow.
right? And then you can, the excise for buying a brand new car or leasing a new vehicle
That's amazing.
also is included in that $25,000. And which leads us to the last point, Cam, is that July 1st, you have to contact ODVA to get your sales tax exemption status updated. So we'll put that information to ODVA
Yeah, let's
on the
do.
website. So you guys who are listening to this, it's very important that it's not automatic this time here. It's a whole new process. You guys need to make this phone call. I went through the process myself earlier just to test it out. It was cumbersome at the beginning, but they kind of worked out the kinks. You call the number, say who you are, they'll ask questions, and it's done.
Wow.
Cam, last words, or did you already
Cam?
have your last words?
We have great people in Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
I
agree.
love
Thank
it.
you for what you do.
Thank you for what
Mick,
you
what
do.
you do.
Thank you.
You guys are amazing. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Well, thank you to everybody who is out there. Thank you for watching Let the People Decide. I'm MicMeow, Rarchar Tortorello. We're here with Cam Ulloa. We are having a great day. We want to say thank you to our sponsors.
Don't forget them.
City Sentinel, city-sentinel.com, Patriot Sentinel, patriotsentinel.com. You're out there on Facebook, you're out there on Rumble, you're saying to yourself,